Hello and welcome to a new episode of Foodocracy for Her. I'm Kalyan Karmakar, and Foodocracy for Her is where I speak to women entrepreneurs in the world of food and beverages in India. And we've got some really fascinating stories over the last year and a half. And today, after quite some time, I'm taking you across the country. I'm in Mumbai to Kolkata, which is my hometown, and we're going to speak to Sohini Basu, who is also known as Mrs Magpie. But of course, when you see her, you'll sort of wonder that why am I calling her Mrs. Magpie? I mean, unless of course you're one of the many fans of Mrs. Magpie. So welcome on board, Shoini. So
Thank
great to have you on board. And this is actually the second time which we are chatting. Because I remember years back in Adda with Kalyan on IFN, there was one on patisseries and confectionery,
you.
and
Yes.
you were a panelist there. But
Yeah.
this time it's going to be a one-on-one chat, which is lovely. And Shoini's story is very interesting. So, I mean, while she runs the Mrs. Magpie cafeteria, sort of chain in Bombay, sorry, in Calcutta, but that's not how she had started. But let's hear it from her. So, Shoini, is it right to call you a Calcutta girl? Bits and pieces, right?
Yeah. I'm kind of like I think of myself as a bit of a nomad, being here and there, everywhere. Yeah. Uh, Brought up in Calcutta mostly. My childhood from 5 to 18. A lot of influences, obviously, which I've carried forward in my life. Once upon a time, I used to work in fashion with Sabyasachi, and that's was around 2002. Sorry, can we redo this? Sorry,
Uh,
can we redo that part? Because it was.
we are back. So Shoini was a bit worried that she's got her dates wrong. So I paused the video to convince her that this is not an ICSE history exam. So it's fine. I mean, it's absolutely fine. And in any case, with at the risk of being sexist with women, you're not supposed to ask dates too much. But Shoini, so tell me. I mean, Saudi Arabia, growing up in Calcutta, then you're in Paris, London, fashion. What's happening? Tell me.
For me, actually, food has been very interesting. Working in fashion at that time, before the internet, especially, or when the internet just about came in, food was the enemy. So when like, you don't eat. In fact, when I was in Paris, all the French girls were just like on a diet of cigarettes and coffee, and that's probably one of the reasons why they're lovely and skinny. But it was also a time when I started. Falling in love with the French patisserie, because before that I was exposed to a lot of like the English bakery style, American, of course, because that's what is prevalent in India. I feel is the American bakery
Hmm.
style, with the sponge and everything. But the French, it's a completely different world, and this is something I got exposed to in 2009.
So what? So in before France, you were in UK, right? Or was it France first?
So actually, 2002, I was in the UK. I was doing my fashion degree from the UK. I came
Okay,
back to India around 2004. I worked with
okay,
Sabyasachi for about 4 years.
okay.
And
So from 2004 onwards.
yes, I
Yes.
decided to pursue a fashion marketing and management course in Paris.
Okay,
That is where I fell in love with the French patisserie.
okay.
I mean, it was mind blowing, completely different, and it's just actually for me the creativity of it is probably what excited me, because like being in fashion, it's that layering. It's just a different way of layering and a different way to create.
Any sort of vivid memory from back then of any dish or any
The hot
cafe or any
chocolate. I mean,
instance
hot chocolate. Very much the hot chocolate.
at Angelina, or that's too touristy?
Angelina's was the inspiration. It really was the inspiration because
Oh,
Miss
by
Mac.
the way, I have many friends who are fans of the Mrs. Magpie hot chocolates. I'm
Yes,
sure there's
yes.
a bit of Angelina in that then.
It is an
Like my friends
everything.
Konishko, Monishita.
Yeah. In fact, a little bit of the way the name came about, the Mr. Magpie. Magpie is actually for me the bird you read about. Like for me, it was an Aesop's fable which I read about, and like I loosely interpreted it as as the bird collecting things that she liked in her house. So all the recipes and all kinds of influences have come together to create Mrs. Magpie, and everything is an original or a rendition. Like I don't like to do anything cookie cutter or what's already being done in the market, because honestly, if it's already out there, then what's the point? So that's been one of my driving ethos when I for Mr. Magpie.
And just sort of to give readers or listeners a context. So you were studying fashion and business management in Paris, and then you were sort of you fell in love with the patisseries over there and the hot chocolate of Angelina, where you often have to queue up
Yeah.
to sort of have it. So a bit like what's it, Peter Cat and the chiller kebabs in Kolkata, and then you also did a patisserie course somewhere over there, right?
Yes, I did the patisserie diploma from Le Cordon Bleu in London. I wanted to
So
do it in
why London? Why not
I wanted to do it in English so I didn't lose anything. And
Austin
nothing lost.
translation?
Yes.
I think it was cliche school.
Yes, yes.
So by then, had you sort of decided to sort of open something in patisserie, and is that why you did your course?
Not honestly, I had not. I at that
So
time I still
why do you do it?
was going to come back to India, but I don't know. Like I was here, I had to be in Calcutta for some time, and I was kind of creating and keeping up the skill set, and then I started showing like feeding friends, and everyone was kind of getting excited, and they're like, you should do this, you should do this, and then I was like, I started looking at places, and then one thing led to another, and I created Mr. Magpie, and then 1 year down the line, I got my first award from T2, and
The
that is when
Telegraph.
I realized, yes, and that's when I realized that I'd actually created something. I wasn't, I'm not that the stereotypical business-minded person who had a plan. Honestly, at that, I'm still from that generation where we thought, we thought. Now, of course, with experience,
I don't know whether it's generation or the Bengali bit in you. Though your father was an astute businessman, Arnab uncle, as our friends call him. I mean, he's
yeah,
unfortunately passed away, but and he had sort of set up the Monjini's franchise in the East, which then became Miyamor. So in a way, you do come from baking genes,
yeah.
or bakery business
And
genes.
business jeans, yes. But apparently, when I was growing up, I think it was the last thing I imagined myself doing. Like food.
Too many pastries and too many chicken mayonnaise rolls coming out of a Yaj man.
I think when you're living it, you don't realize you
No,
don't.
like my dad was a doctor. I lost him very early in life, but
Yeah.
I was very clear even then that I wouldn't want to be a doctor. I mean, I don't know if I could have become one. I
Huh.
never had the aptitude for it, but I was
Yeah.
very clear that I didn't want to become one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so you were talking of you're not wanting to do something cookie cutter. That's an interesting pun in the context of the business you are.
Yeah.
Now, I am trying to do a bit of a telescopic view of the Calcutta confectionery business and the scene and the from point of view of someone who's grown up there in the 80s and 90s and then moved out, but keeps going back.
Hmm.
So I belong to the generation which is slightly after the furpose of the world, if that's the right pronunciation. So one, I think they sell clothes over there now, with where
Hmm.
furpose used to be, but one had heard of it. So it's sort of after the halcyon days of Park Street,
Yeah.
and it's more like the Jyoti Basu and trade union sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I mean, and I sort of grew up in suburban Calcutta, so there was I mean, it was really Jollo Joke, which were the treats, and then Monjini's, which opened I think in the late 80s when I was in high school, and at that time that was like this really big thing, and then there were a few other things like sugar and spice, as that, and then somewhere down the line, Cookie Jar opened in near De La Martinia girls when probably we were in high school, and it was I think it took Calcutta by storm, and it was a bit of an exclusive thing because till then there was Flurries, but I think Flurries had sort of become very rundown till the Park Hotel group took it over. I mean, I remember when I was in college, it was quite a seedy thing, but then they took it over. So I think Cookie Jar was really the talk of the town. So when I first started working late 1990s, like buying the sort of lemon tart there and the chicken crust patties and the chocolate boat stuff and all that,
Yeah.
and pretty much after that, nothing really happened. I mean,
Yeah.
and by then I'd moved out, but I kept going to the city and have friends there and food lovers. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the next big thing after cookie jar was Mrs. Magpie. I do know that in the last 2 or 3 years, there's been a fair bit of movement in the Calcutta cafe scene. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
not fair to say, but I think that Mrs. Magpie was the next biggest thing after cookie jar, and which was after quite a longish gap because
Yeah.
cookie jar was probably like late 1990s, and you were 2014, right, Mrs. Magpie?
2012. 2012.
12.
Yeah.
So how did the city sort of respond to it? I mean, I have blogger friends, and at that time, blogging was very innocent. So we would eat and write about it. So they would write about it, and I knew it was something interesting happening there, and we went and tried it, enjoyed. But how did the city react to it?
See, it
And it's
was a
also a city with such a strong sweet tooth and the mishti dukan culture and all of that. And
yeah.
also, you were in South Calcutta, which is again not the most western part. You were around the lakes and Bull Park, if
That's one of
I
the
remember right.
first cafes in that place. There was actually no
Yes.
sit-down place before Mr. Magpie in that locality.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now,
Because it was.
what
I
is
mean,
it?
posh in Calcutta was basically Park Street to Middleton Street.
Yes, yes,
Not even Newmarket. Maybe Newmarket a bit, but
I
if
agree.
it's over there.
Yeah.
So how did the people react to that?
Um, uh, I'll actually tell you a little bit of when I was starting out. Everyone
Yes,
was,
please.
before I got my own place, I was trying to get a counter at certain shops. I'm not going to name them. And, people are laughing at me. They're like, you want to charge this for this? No one's going to buy it. They're like pretty much, like abandon the project. But, I just felt really strongly about it. And, one of the key aspects of Miss Magpie is that we don't have a pastry. It's only cupcakes. So this is
Yes.
something that I was
So
very
it's still so.
still the same. Still the same.
Yeah.
I was very adamant about this that it was going to be a cupcake, and my
Yes.
cupcakes are actually with French techniques, and that's how
No, I remember. So our friend Manishita took Canas and me, and
yeah,
we loved it so much that I think we took my mom, the three of us, and she had a cha and cupcakes and all that, and it
yeah,
was very good quality stuff.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So at that time, I would say I'm one of the first in the cafe culture. There's a lot of places which have come up, and right now, I mean, there is a lot of competition. But luckily, I don't know. I've created a strong customer base, and they keep coming back, and that's helping. That really helped, especially during COVID, during the lockdown, surviving. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be 9 years for us this October. So we're actually in the process of rebranding. Uh, just because I'm working on the new menu right now, and our savories has been. I've always kind of wanted to do more with the savories, and in fact, I'm working on something very exciting, but not going to talk about that too much right now.
We'll
Yes.
talk about it another time when it's ready,
Yes.
because there should always be some nonta with mishti.
There is, but this one's going to be up there. Really
Yes.
excited about it.
Yes.
But yeah, don't want to reveal anything right now, anything more. Yeah.
And I must tell you one more interesting thing. I mean, if I go by a Mumbai or Delhi perspective, I can't think of any other prominent brand, like really prominent brand, which has a sole cupcake focus. I mean, look, there are cupcakeries and all of that, but like, I mean, if I look at La 15 or La Folia, it was all about macarons. I mean, they did later do cupcakes in La 15, and there were other places which did cupcakes.
Yeah.
There's also Love Cheese and Poetry and all that stuff. But no one really had a cupcake focus. I mean, now that you come to say it,
Yeah.
I mean, there
Uh,
are some cupcake only places, but
Cupcakes are
no one's
so
really
small.
like a bigger
Yeah.
brand.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, what they do with cupcakes is sacrilegious to me. Like
So
it's
so why did you choose cupcakes? Like for example, Pooja Dhingra of Love 15 said she launched with macaron because she added a pear and for her that was a life redefining moment and all of that. So why cupcakes for you?
um first of all, the pretty aspect of it, it's I have these many sizes. It's just really cute and attractive, and it's just for me aesthetically, it's just beautiful, and the texturing and the layering. I just liked it. It's different. Honestly, like the thing is also for me, if there are 10 shops selling pastries, and why am I going to be the 11th shop selling a pastry? I've always tried to create a difference with Mr. Magpie, and I believe like we need to have a USP. Being from a business point of view, there needs to be, why will people come to Mr. Magpie? They'll come for the hot chocolate. They'll come for the cupcake. And that's very important when you want to for it to survive also, not just because I wanted to, but it's just a differentiating factor for sure. But also, like like it's attractive, and it was very, one of the lucky things I must say was that when I just launched is when Zomato also first came
Hmm.
to Calcutta, and Instagram was just starting, and so
Yes, yes.
my product and my place is very
Oh,
Instagrammable.
cupcake is meant for Instagram. In fact, when Pooja came out with the first book,
Yeah.
everyone expected the cover to have macarons, but it had a red velvet cupcake.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I've actually launched my first macaroon this year, because
Okay.
I've been kind of, it's not, I because for me, it's always been trying to create something in a different way. So like last year we did a rebranding, not rebranding. It's more like a refocus. I wanted to do my cupcakes individually. Like, okay, so now I'm doing cupcakes. Everyone's doing cupcakes. So then, what is a Miss Magpie cupcake? You'll see
Yes.
these lovely teddy bears, and which for me it's like creating the little bit moment of joy and happiness as well. Like when you're doing sweets, and when someone wants to have sweets, there's actually this happiness factor.
Exactly. It's
Yeah,
it's a wonderful business to be in. It's
yeah,
really the business of joy.
yeah,
Dessert in whichever form.
yeah, yeah. And actually now I'm working on a sugar-free range as well, because the thing is, loving that, but also now with all the information that is surrounding us, and the fact that we have a huge diabetic population. I
Oh,
mean, they eat
true.
sweets, which
No, so
don't
I'm always on the lookout for that. I mean, as I'm growing
very excited
older
about.
and the borderline of sugar and stuff like that. I mean, sometimes you want to just take the guilt out of it and really enjoy
Yeah,
good stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah,
So I'm launching this actually in August, the sugar-free range, and it's meant to be like, to not taste like you're getting deprived. Because
hmm,
my thing is like, if I don't want that, that bitter aftertaste. I'm not gonna do a product which I'm not happy with. If I can eat
yes.
it, then I'll, so I'll have it in the shop. And more and more, I'm getting stricter about this. I'm not gonna have anything average. If I don't like it, it's off the menu.
You know what I also liked about what you just said about this entire thing of why you chose cupcake and all of that is that I know there are a whole lot of people out there in different fields, including say content and all that, who look at trends, whether it's reels or this that or whatever. What is trending? What is a trending video, and let's do that better. But unless you do something different, which is what you did, Shoini, how will one stand out? Yes, later there will be people doing cupcakes, but there is Mrs. Magpie and cupcakes, and that's and like you said, 9 years of sort of leading the market, and many more awards after the T2
Thank you.
one.
Yeah.
But I was also interested in the fact that you are originally, I mean, and still are, still a creative person. You've been in fashion, you studied fashion, then you went into confectionery because you were interested in the design, the texture, and all of that.
Yeah.
And then you could have, I don't know, become a chef somewhere and let someone run the business,
Yeah.
or you could have let dad run the business. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you decided to open your own business, and so how was it becoming a businesswoman? Did it come naturally to you? Because
It
I know to me it doesn't. Running a
had
business.
a very a great experience working with Sabyasachi, where I started as a designer, then I ended up managing his export division, and I got experience managing people at that time. Like before that, you tell me that I'm gonna be, if you told me that I might have even thought of running my own business. Never, never. But then like, most I think the most daunting aspect of running the business is one, all these problems suddenly, which you need to kind of run with. These, like, always there's like some problems which happen every single day. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's small, but it's like a you have to keep running. You can't just suddenly pause or stay, like, just get mm, overwhelmed, like COVID. Like the pandemic was one of the most trying, the first round. The second one was easier because you already had that experience, and we kind of went into the mode very easily, and it was a lighter version of, the lockdown itself was not as strong,
Hmm.
as rigid as
In
it is
Calcutta. In Calcutta.
in Calcutta. Yeah.
But that's
uh,
funny because a lot of people in the F&B business have said that the first one they still sort of managed, but the second one knocked the wind out of them because they thought that it got over the worst and then it came back. But I guess different way, different people approach things.
yeah, I think mostly that, because the thing is, I guess it's, when you're running a business, you can't, obviously you cannot be in isolation. You're the news, with the second wave and impending. There was a moment where we had some difficulty in Calcutta, especially in April. We just opened our new outlet in March. And
Where was
then
that? Where was that?
one in Santoshpur. So it's a
Santashpur.
new
So,
concept.
so just tell me where all are your outlets? One is near the sort of Ballpark Lake area, right?
Yes, and one in
Which I've
Salt
been to.
near city
Salt
center,
Lake.
and the newest one is in Santoshpur. There was a one in Park Circus before, but I have had to close that during COVID. It
But
was
what I
just
find interesting is all these locations which you've chosen, like, when the annals of Calcutta Conti food is written, and the British Raj and all of that, then it's
yeah,
really all about Park Street and Middleton Street. Like I
yeah,
said, maybe a bit of
yeah,
Esplanade and all of that. And in a way, so you represent the new Calcutta because you're doing like food which is world class, but you're choosing your own arenas and sort of spreading it to parts of the city which was really earlier deprived of it. Like when I was growing up, you would have to make the trip to that Park Street area to sort of have anything nice. So
yeah.
do you see the city changing? I mean, it must have taken a bit of guts at your end to. Must have been quite a bold step, right? Did you find that a bit daunting? That not going the classical high street.
See, well, Southern Avenue itself at that time was a gamble because there was really like nothing there. But then again, you're thinking,
It's trendy, but everyone from it's like what Bandra, where I live now in Mumbai, was 20 years back. I mean, it was still a trendy place, but there was nothing in Bandra at
yeah,
that point.
yeah. It was a very comfortable residential area at that time.
Yes,
It was,
yes,
you got the lakes, you got to walk. That's
yeah,
it. No food.
yeah,
You
yeah.
had to
No,
live.
it's either you would go on a date, or you'd largely go on a date. You wouldn't think
Then
of
I
food
provided
then.
the place to have a date, because a lot of people do end up at Magpie with the dates, I must say.
Yeah, yeah.
In
The,
fact, one of the most amazing things for me
uh,
has
yes.
been, now it's been 9 years. I've had the date, the engagement.
I was
We've
just
had,
thinking so.
yes, we've had that, and then kids' birthday. So we've had the generation entire. That in itself, just experiencing that it's quite amazing.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was thinking the same when you said that.
yeah,
Yes.
and as a bakery, you kind of get to experience all these important moments in a person's life. So that's also quite something. We
So
had
yes, please go ahead.
we had someone a few months ago who mailed us, and he was like, "Oh, he wanted to propose in Mr Magpie because it's where they first met, and that's where they first courted." And yeah,
So from being the chaperone, then you became the one who sort of provided did you have to hide the ring in the cupcake?
no, 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 no,
Because that would be, I mean, that would be a waste of a good cupcake. I
no.
mean,
We had that whole no, no, food safety.
yes. Okay,
Yeah.
Shoini, I want to take this opportunity to ask you to tell people, because we have people watching in from different parts of the country, world, hopefully, a bit about what's happening in Calcutta today. Not the politics, but from the food scene. And again, not just COVID, but is the assumption with Calcutta is primarily roll, biryani, fuchka, fluris, Chinese, and all of that. Is Calcutta changing? And you're someone who's been out and then come back, and then been out and come back. So is the city changing? What's your message to the world out there?
Um, See, I don't think we can take COVID apart from this. Why? Because we've been in it for 2 years, and what is really
Yes,
interesting,
it's been 2 years. Yes.
and it's really influenced the food scene right now. Because there's a lot of home bakers suddenly, not just home bakers, but a lot of home cooks, and there's like these new businesses that have been developed. In fact, pushing people. To say cook at home. There's this one person who's like cooking and creating amazing concoctions every day and pushing people, like one of I think for me it's like taking an opportunity, from, yes, we it's a crazy, I'm like, none of us could envision being in living this movie. It's like those apocalyptic crazy
Yeah, very very Black Mirror sort of
yeah,
thing.
but
Yes.
but it's also quite rewarding to see what people, the success stories and people adapting and surviving and working through it. Um, Food wise, it's very exciting, because people have been online a lot, and I think exposed to a lot more, and they want a lot more.
Hmm.
And everyone's much more demanding. Um, and everyone, and that's great, because the thing is, what happens is they're pushing us and to do better, because if you have to, it's getting a bit more competitive, because there's a lot of, even like now we've got like Farzi Cafe, which just
Oh
came
yeah,
in.
they just opened. Yes.
Oh, a huge I've been hearing about it from everyone, so obviously they
Yes.
did something right when they launched.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Big
But
monies to start with.
yeah, yeah, well, so then, a lot of these, like the chains which never had opened in Calcutta before, opening here.
Monkey Bar and all of that also. Like yes.
It's nice to see that, finally, we're also getting included, because Calcutta was a little bit ignored, like everything happened. Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, yes,
Hyderabad. Yes.
Hyderabad as well. But like Calcutta is always like the poor sister. Uh, the
Which is funny because I mean, once upon a time, I mean, Calcutta was where trends were set, but things are changing, which
Yeah,
is good. And I mean, you've been doing some very interesting stuff. A few years after you started Aroni with, I think he's with Sienna now, and
yes,
earlier with, yes, I don't remember. So there's interesting things happening.
yeah,
But it's a customer changing, like you said, when you started. The thing was very conservative, and people were asking you, would people be willing to spend for so much, or when when they're getting traditional things. So is the Calcutta customer changing in terms of willing to sort of look for excellence, and if required, pay a bit more for that.
see, I mean, at the end of the day, there's an entire gamut of people here. And, like from Magpie itself, I would say like there is a niche customer. I have a very delicate balance of, not too expensive, but it's still relatively expensive, not an average. But, people will pay for that quality. So
Hmm.
once they perceive the quality, the people who do perceive it, they are happy to pay. Sometimes I get a feedback, oh, this is such a tiny cake, but I mean, the percentage of that is very, very, like maybe a 2% out of
True.
2%. So there is, like there is that the customer who wants this. So I believe, like, there's, it's a huge city. And a lot of people have come with experiences. A lot of people have stayed abroad and come back, and then they,
Like you.
yeah, yes,
Yes.
exactly. So, and there has been that exposure and now the desire. And it's not even just abroad, even in, say, because Bombay and Delhi are doing a lot more.
True
When
now.
you come back, you want more. The thing is, now you've been exposed, you want that. So
Also
that,
with social media, right? You're sitting in Calcutta and you're seeing, like Farzi Cafe, for example, it's been winning hearts everywhere, including London and whatnot. So there would be that expectation when it sort of opens up.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Hmm. You were talking about home bakers earlier. So a question which home bakers often ask
Yeah.
is that, how does one command value? Because, there would be customers who would say that why is this price so much or whatever. So, I mean, you've built a successful brand over so many years. So what, according to you, is the foundation of a successful brand, or at least your brand? Like how do you make, I mean, apart from the fact, of course, one thing you said is that you chose a category which was unique at that point. But like you said, I mean, that's, that has its limitation in terms of time. So how do you define the soul of your brand? Like, um, what sort of gives it its captive power?
I think one of the things that people say often is that Mr. Magpie is their happy place. That's something, like just that little happiness which I managed to convey with their products, with the ambience. And that is what it seems it reaches my customers, because that's something is a comment often. And I think it's that it's not just like I like to think at least that it's not just an ordinary bakery, because you can have that. And for me, like, it's always like, again, one of my my core tenets is that everything has to be unique, and uniquely Magpie. And like, is this Magpie? And these are things that I question. And it's like, last year, for example, I had a huge menu. And again, I'm going back to the lockdown, but for me, it was an opportunity. I actually uh, knocked down the entire menu, and then I built it back up slowly and built it back up from favorites, and like and really understood that what my product is and what my customers want from me. Because in the middle, I was losing my way a little bit. I was like, okay, let me do
I guess
something.
it happens to all of us. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, every business sort of goes to that as well.
Yeah, because this is very interesting, in fact, because this is quite a learning point. In the middle, I thought, okay, I want to do healthy food, so let me like a healthy thing with the cafe, with the cupcakes, so you'll feel better having it or whatever. But no, people are coming to my cafe to indulge. They want the cupcakes.
Yes.
They want the decans. They want that joy, and they don't want healthy food. And I'm like,
Yeah, when
what?
they want healthy food, they'll probably go somewhere
Somewhere
else
else.
or do something else. Yes, I get that.
Yeah, so in fact, understand what is it that people are coming to you. Why are they coming to you? That's, I think, a big question. And just focus on that. You cannot go left or right. It's a business after all, and if it's working for a reason. I think it's identifying that reason, and just keep working, developing that.
Give us some examples of your like really, I don't know whether hot selling ones or the things which are really close to your heart. I mean, we've heard about the hot chocolate, of course, but in terms of the cupcakes or something which I'm sure there's some which are closer to your heart than the others. I mean, well, they're all your children.
Sweet and salty cupcake right now in a teddy bear rendition. It's got a marshmallow snout. And it's
Oh,
so, like, for me, it's just like I look at it and it's like, okay, it's so sweet. It's happy. I'm happy looking at it. And,
yeah.
for me, of course, the cakes are really cute because I've got these florals with some little bees with personas. And, like, I think it's just that whole interactive adorable ness, which is something which is it can work for the kids, it can work for the mothers, it works generationally, and I think, yeah, sorry.
And then we see you've been running the business for 9 years, 1 or 2 years before that of planning and set up. And I
Yeah,
always ask this to people like you were in the interview who've been running businesses for a while.
yeah.
Do you do things during the process to sort of upskill yourself or to learn new things? And how do
Yes,
you do
you
it? Like,
have.
do you take formal time out or what do you do?
See, there are lots of ways. Formal timer, I've been wanting to know. Doesn't happen,
Okay. Yeah,
sometimes when
that's
I
what many
grab
people
a,
say. Yes.
yeah. But I grab a course when I'm traveling, 3 days skilling this, I learn something, then I pass it on to my people. Or like, getting a professional in from the industry who come and skill up my people. These are things, but it's very important. I mean, if you have to stay relevant, you need to always be innovating and be improving, because, you cannot do what you keep on doing. Because
Hmm.
I think that's what happened to Calcutta, like, as you said rightfully, nothing happened. There was Mongees once upon a time, a cookie jar, and then suddenly, like, a decade went by, nothing happened.
Yes, absolutely. And
Yeah,
cookie jar itself happened after like a million years. I think. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
there were before that there was this Catherine three because I mean I had myself come into Calcutta when I was like 7 or 8 years old and from abroad,
yeah,
and it was like a shock because there was nothing, and I'm
yeah,
talking the early 80s. And then, I mean, imagine the big innovations were Jolajog and Monjini's. I think
Yeah.
it's only cookie jars. I mean, this is
Yeah.
many years, and then again, nothing again.
Yeah. Yeah. But now nothing. It's not stayed still at all. Like, oh my God, things are
I'm so
open.
happy to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also some of the hotels also getting like aggressive with, the ITC Royal Bengal, JW, and the Oberoi has its 360, I think, the cafe. So
Yeah.
they also sort of like, it's no
Yeah.
longer the old lady of Boribandar, like the way they say
No.
about the TOI building over here. I think
Yeah.
everyone sort of,
Yeah.
but a very interesting thing, you were talking about innovation. Now, you said that a big hinge of your business or anchor of the business are the cafes, and the cafes are happy places, and of course great products, because we also know of places in Calcutta which are happy places, rather than nostalgia, not
Yeah.
necessarily the best of products, but
Yeah. Yeah.
one keeps going back there.
Yeah.
But then the lockdown happened, and pandemic happened, and lockdown got eased, lockdown got this thing. There are time restrictions, table
Yeah.
restrictions. So I'm sure you would have had to do a bit of a change and probably move more towards deliveries,
Yeah.
and where that suddenly that happy space was gone, and
Yeah.
in your ability to interact with
Yeah.
your customer
Yeah.
was gone. So then, how did you deal with that? How did you still carry the essence of the brand ahead in that sort of isolated
Most
silo?
of like for us, especially in the second lockdown, we did not actually face like, of course, in the beginning, in fact, there was a bit of a slump. But what we did is, of course, you have to adapt. We had a very strong social media, Instagram presence at that time. Really push interactions, and then Swiggy. Honestly, it's at the end of the day, Swiggy has been a very reliable partner for us. It's they did make it viable, right, to survive lockdown. Because there are
That's
now a lot of third party delivery partners which are coming up, but this is tried and tested, and it was working. We don't have a time, we don't have time to gamble.
And
So
also, you got such a delicate product with
exactly.
the
Yeah.
frosting and all of that. I mean, if it's not someone who knows how to carry food,
Even
there's a sort of
sometimes, my God, sometimes, I mean, that's one of the things. This guy suddenly, like, he's putting the cake and he's putting it on his handle, the bike handle. We're like, what?
Did you have
Please.
to make innovations for your packaging and all? Because given that there was more.
Did and we're doing also, because
Hmm,
I think now obviously the culture is moving towards home delivery. I
yeah,
am worried a little bit. I think a lot of people are coming up, but a lot of people are staying in. So,
yeah, yeah,
what is the change going to be in a few months? We will see, because it's not like everyone's coming back out again. There has been that comfort zone which people have established at home, and
yeah,
companies are happy for them to work from home.
yeah,
So,
yeah. That's true.
yeah, yeah,
It's going to be a bit of a challenge for people when they're to start getting back to work,
yeah,
because you're right. I mean, there's this entire comfort zone, and all our cities with the travel and this, that, and whatever. But I think once people go back to office, they'll probably remember what they were missing. I mean, certainly being away from, I don't know, children, cats, dogs, spouses. And I think they have their benefits as well when work. I mean, I've been working home for the last 2 or 3 years, so that's even before the pandemic. So that's
yeah,
okay. I wanted to ask you one more question, because since you asked about you, and it's an interesting point which you said about delivery partners, because I know that there are many restaurant owners who seem to have a contrary point of view, but even as a customer, what you said, just to give you an example, I live in Bandra, like I said, in Mumbai, and there aren't any really there aren't any Maharashtrian eateries very close by, but today I wanted to have some Maharashtrian food. So I sort of through Swiggy called in from Panchikar, and had the pohe and the vada pav and the missile and all that. So it just enables. Yeah. So the question I was asking was, you spoke about social media. So I mean, just for me to understand that, um, are there any things which you guys keep? Like, do you do it in house or agency? Are
in
there
house.
any things in
Yeah,
house? And is there anything you keep in mind when you do your social media? Like, is there any plan to it, or is there any underlying thought? Because see, I'm asking you that because, again, for home chefs and home business, home bakers, that's the main thing,
yeah.
and they sometimes wonder that what works, what doesn't work.
So tried and tested, generally planning, like I would do a month's plan before, because I'll do the shoot and finish it off in a day or two, and then the entire month is done. So sometimes that works, and sometimes, it's almost like a work in progress. But that is, the months that you can plan in advance and have the, because at the end of the day, it's what, maybe how many posts do you want to do a week and how many pictures do you need, and it's very easy to boil that down and then plan accordingly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And there, there must be a lot of like engagement and all that on the social media in terms of question answers and stuff like that. So, or is it?
People have a natural engagement.
And in Calcutta, we love to talk. We love to
Huh.
talk about food. We can talk with the mouth shut, mouth.
People always, usually they love the decoration or the products and they're kind of excited to try it. That's the interaction. What I've seen, a lot of people tag the product to show their friends. Yeah, so that's what happens.
I'm sure that also you must be must be quite a role model in Calcutta and even otherwise, and Mrs. Magpie is the same. So do you see like a lot of young people wanting to sort of join, to study, to learn with you? Is
A
that
lot of
happening?
people want to do internships, and then that's something I am thinking about going forward. Maybe something
And is
like,
it both genders, boys and girls both?
yes, 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 yeah. It's been very interesting. The Yeah.
And which part of the business is something I want to ask you as we're closing? Which attracts you more? Is it like being at, I don't know whether you call it the studio or the kitchen, and
Always,
creating new things? Always the kitchen,
always. It's like the management is not attractive at all. I don't think anyone gets attracted to management. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, but it's that you have to. I mean, I think I get to do the creative a lot less than I would like to, and I think that's just the way it happens. As you go bigger and bigger, you need to do. The management kind of takes over.
Yeah, I guess even if you're in a company or agency like you are in fashion, you might
Yeah,
start off as a designer, but slowly you'll have teams and
ability.
um,
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
that. So listen, there are tons of people out there who are, bursting with all sorts of ideas, whether it's in confectionery or even otherwise. But they sometimes feel a bit daunted about the idea of starting a business.
Yeah.
So, what's your words of advice to them, having gone through this yourself?
So, one, creating a business really isn't for everyone. The main thing is, you need to be asked. Like, one of the things that I found is like, you're going to have a ton of advice as you go
Yes,
forward, tons of
yes.
advice. Now, the thing is to be able to take the right ones and filter it in and, making that choice. But the thing is, you ask, how do you know? That is something which is maybe trial and error, but that I think that is like the crux of it, to be able to wean the good from the bad, and then but keeping your own identity. Don't get weighed down like you need to listen to that person's advice or 100% just because they've been like I'll tell you one example. In fact, the
Yes, please
pastry
go ahead.
cake. My
Sorry,
father,
what is I missed that last one.
yeah, this is
I
actually
couldn't.
the pastry and the cupcake story. My
Yes,
choice
yes, yes.
of cupcakes. My father was very disapproving with me with this choice. He's like, "How could you not have pastry in your cake shop? It's like that's like unheard of." But I was very adamant, like that is what I wanted to do. And so like I could have been like, okay, maybe I should listen to my dad, but that's what I mean. Like sometimes you just need to know and be
But,
confident.
but did you sort of come around to it and they just said, okay, maybe you were right?
Yes, of course. He was like, yeah, yeah. No, my dad was amazing that ways, like sometimes we would have a conflict, but then, like he would, like we could both be like, okay, you were right or you were right, so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always, things to learn from, not to also, like, if you make a mistake, it's fine. Just, pick yourself up and, go forward. That's the thing, like, uh, and I think like in a lot of entrepreneurs, that's what I see. You just pick yourself up and keep moving forward, and there's like, if you made a mistake, learn from it, don't do it the next time, but learn.
And challenges come from everywhere. I mean, there are professional challenges, the environment, which is COVID. I mean, you've had your own personal issues with accidents and this, that,
Yeah.
and what. But
First, father.
but you keep getting up from, if I use a sort of mnemonic from my era, like Rambo. So what keeps you going, or Rocky, whatever? What keeps you going?
So the last year, in fact, it was the thought of my people. I was like, either is like closing down would mean that they wouldn't have jobs and then they wouldn't be able to support their families, and like that itself was panic for me, panicky, because I just felt responsible. And they've been with me for so many years, and I think that was really been one of my driving forces. And sometimes it is too much. Sometimes I could easily be like, okay, give up and I can have an easy life and stuff. But I must say that my people are one of the things that really do keep me going. And then then I get into like this creative space. And this last year has been fantastic. Every month there's been innovation. And
Wow.
yeah. Yeah.
That's absolutely fabulous. I mean, what you said right now is so wonderful, that the thought of your team and your people, because like you said, I mean, there are times when you could have maybe sat back, and there were times when you needed to sit back, perhaps. I mean, it was not just being sort of indulgent or lazy, but he kept on. And what he said, I mean, the fact that every month you come up with new innovations and things like that. I mean, imagine, like, the conventional thought would be that pandemic means like maybe survival, and I mean that's true, and one's not looking down upon that, or disregarding that. I mean, that would be wrong. But the fact that you've been actually been creating new things, and
Yeah.
maybe that's given you the sort of extra burst of, I don't know, sugar rush, to use a
Yeah.
the appropriate sort of pun for the category.
Because we do need to smile. We can't just all like, we can't let ourselves get run over and stuff. We need to pick ourselves up, and there should be, I mean, one of the little things, because sometimes it was questioning. I was questioning, like, is this what do you call it? I'm not getting the word for it. Is this frivolous? I think like at
In the context, yeah, I know what you mean.
but
Right.
like, thing is, at the end of the day, the reasons for like this sweet and innocent cupcake, there's a lot of reason for it. It's just we did need joy. It's
No,
not like,
and it's not frivolous, because one is, I mean, it's not that one needs to justify that, but what people don't realize is that that cupcake, and I'm saying this for so many businesses,
yeah,
supports so many things. I mean, this your staff,
yeah,
your chefs, your cleaning staff, your managerial folks, the
yeah,
delivery people, their families.
that's,
People don't realize it. I mean, it's easy to pass judgment and say
yeah,
that, oh, how can you have cupcakes? I mean, but it's not really a Mary Antoinette sort of situation. I think people sometimes need to focus on what they are doing and what they can do well, than to sort of pass judgment
yeah.
uh, on that.
Yeah.
I'd like to say, I mean, back in Blighty, have cupcakes and keep calm. So I think, yeah, that's very true.
Mm.
So it was an absolute pleasure speaking to you, Sohini, and hopefully, things will be better and one can go back to Calcutta and sit in Mrs Magpie and have some, hot chocolate and cupcakes. Can't think of anything better.
Yeah.
All the best for whatever interesting things you're planning.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear about that, and for the rebranding and everything like that. And yes,
And
so
come
folks,
try the sugar-free range. Let me know. Yeah, I'm very excited. I want to
no,
let you.
so are we, because I mean, we are now in this stage of life where we are trying to sort of cut down on sugar, and look at more healthier and
Yeah.
better ways of living,
Yeah.
and that's really interesting. So,
Yeah.
folks, I mean, I always feel very proud when I do chats like this, which are with people from back home, so to speak. And Shoini is, of course, a global citizen, and she didn't tell you this, but she's also a cyclist, and she's got the attraction of the local media for cycling. But we'll talk about that some other day. But she's become a serious cyclist also now, so she's not just innovating in cupcakes, But
It's
so we talk.
amazing, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, what was that?
No, I mean, like riding, it's like fitness for food, essentially, so that I can eat. Eat.
That's the best motivator. So that's
Yeah.
Sohini Basu. She runs Mrs Magpie. I think revolutionary place in Calcutta, a bit different from the average revolution you associate Calcutta with. Her cupcakes can be red, pink, but other colors as well. And she's there at Salt Lake. She's there very recently at Santoshpur. Then the Lake Avenue.
Uh,
Is that right? Or Ravindra Right.
Near Southern Avenue, so it's
Southern Avenue. Yes,
Keatala
Southern
area.
Avenue, where many romances bloom. And so do try it out. And if you're in Calcutta, you have no reason not to try it out. And now's a good tip part that even if you're not in Calcutta, you can order stuff for your loved ones. Maybe
Yeah.
not so loved ones. Maybe you can sort of make up with them by ordering cupcakes. So thank you, Shoini. Absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. It's lovely
Uh,
to be on your show.
do take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.